back-to-back Big 12 series wins. It was time for us to go back to Utah. So very excited to have on the show today from Utah, Kaylah Nelsen. Kaylah, welcome to the 1012.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. Look, we had Coach Hogue on before the season. She was a fantastic interview. I've been wanting to get a Utah player on, especially on this back-to-back great weekends out of your team. I want to start with you in particular. This is your senior season. You were named to the Big 12 preseason team. You lead your team in batting average. You're top 10 in the Big 12 in hits and doubles. Like it seems like you are having a season personally kind of up to what externally was expected of you. How do you feel like you are doing this season? Do you feel like you're kind of living up to your expectations for yourself?
Yeah. This year has been a little bit of a challenge for me. Last year I feel like I didn't have many coaches and teams doing a lot of film on me, and this year I feel like they are. So it's definitely been a challenge in the box a little bit, trying to figure out some areas that they're throwing me that I may not love, and just trying to get in there and like battle that out, and just understanding like what balls I can hit hard and what pitches I can't, and just trying to dial in on that zone. That's probably been a challenge for me this year, but I will say like I definitely am like very proud of myself, my team, my coaching staff for just being able to help me kind of get to where I want to be this season. But yeah, I mean, I'm proud of myself, and I'm just super excited, and hopefully it keeps going up. But yeah, I'm stoked.
That's awesome. That kind of leads me to a question of, obviously we all kind of have an idea of what some of our weaknesses is in things. Sometimes we don't. And so how much does your team, your program kind of work on self-scouting? As you mentioned, you're seeing other programs put more focus and emphasis on you and look for ways that they can, strike you out, get you out, so to eliminate you from the game. How much self-scouting do you do? What does you and the coaching staff look at to say, okay, these are ways that we can continue to improve, even if it's not something that opposing teams have quite figured out?
Yeah, so our coaching staff does a really good job with that. Obviously, the hitters work a lot more with Coach Court. She's our hitting coach. She's awesome. But a lot of things that we do, we have like our own personal charts. And like honestly, after a lot of our games every weekend, we'll go in and we'll go back on Synergy and we'll look at our own film and we'll kind of plot point all the pitches they're throwing at us, whether they were changeups or not, where the pitch is. Did we get a hit on that pitch, and kind of like our counts, which is really beneficial for like, at least for me per se, because a lot of times I'll be like, no, I swear that was a strike, and then I'll look back and I'm like, that was not a strike. And they are repetitively doing this same movement where they're going to try to go like this pitch and then maybe low, and I'm not sometimes realizing every one of those patterns. So it's good to have like that realization. But a lot of times we sit there, we do our own film to try to look for those patterns by ourselves. And then we'll sit back and then we'll talk to Coach Court, and she'll kind of give us that feedback on kind of what we can do better with our pitch selection, what's our cold zones, which means obviously the pitches that we're not very fond of or don't love, and then our hot zones that we know we can hit that ball hard. So we kind of do like film by ourselves, but then also personal film with her, just so like she might pick up things that I obviously don't see about myself. But I would say like for at least our team and like our awareness is pretty good. For the most part, I think, because we do a lot, like in the fall, we did a lot of training with like 108 and with a lot of people, and basically got to know and understand the ways our bodies work. Like for me, I'm more of a grounded hitter. I'm not someone that's very like tall. So like being able to understand, okay, since I'm a grounded hitter, like I do these things really well, but I might struggle on these things, and like taking what I do really good at, being a grounded hitter, and then improving and getting better that way. So like we did a lot of body, a lot of movement stuff, and like understanding ourselves, our own swings. And then on top of that, then we have the other side where we talk about the film aspect and like what pitches we should be hitting, what pitches we shouldn't be hitting. So I feel like preparedness wise, it's been super helpful this year.
Okay, that's as someone who has not played softball, this is all very interesting for me to learn, and so I'm sure there's listeners who are
Yeah.
like, "We already know all this," and I'm like, "Ah, but I don't." So some of these interviews are for the listeners of the show, and some of these listeners answers questions are just for me personally. I mean, you have been fantastic this season, and there's certainly been some high points for everyone on the roster. But it's hard to say this hasn't been a disappointing year so far with the record. A very difficult non-conference. You guys have had some really close games. What is the vibe in the locker room right now with this team, given how this season has kind of gone to this point?
Yeah, honestly, I think the vibes right now are pretty good, actually. We're pretty loose. The one thing about our team is we thrive when we're happy and when we're like messing around the locker room, blasting our music. Like, I feel like it sets the tone for us. We play our best when we're loose, and that's just a fact. That's just how it's always been in Utah softball. I know from previous years we've kind of had some slow starts to get there. Kind of like this year. I know it's been pretty rough the beginning, pretty hard. I think our team's just trying to find our groove. That was our big struggle. Is just like we have so many new girls, so many freshmen, understanding what their role is, understanding what our roles are, and I think it's just something that's so difficult when you have so many new people. And that was kind of like the struggle that we knew we were going to have to try to face. Just at least like that preseason, that was kind of our time to learn and try to like pick up the pieces and figure out what's going on. But I feel right now that we're in a great place. We just won a couple of series, so that's always great. That always kind of makes us want to go here. But I definitely think that it's a lot more looser. I think a lot of people are starting to understand what their roles are. I think that we're starting to understand what type of a team we are and how we can execute runs and how we play our defense well. And I think we're starting to get that figured out. So I'm honestly really excited to see what's good the rest of the season's going to look like. But I think honestly the locker room has been great. It's probably my favorite part, to be honest. So yeah.
Okay, so what you said you when you got your music playing, what's the in locker room jams like? What's on the spot?
Honestly,
What's on the playlist?
we have a lot of Hawaiians on our team. I think we have like four, maybe five. But so there's a lot of reggae, which is nice, super chill. Obviously, there's always like you got your hip hop, old school R&B, rap. I'm a country girl, so when
Okay.
we throw in some country, that kind of makes me get ready for games. But the team, they're like, country's so sad, it's sad music, so they always throw on some like reggae, which is cool too. But honestly, we kind of listen to all the genres.
Okay, that's good. Wait, what kind of country do you what are your go-tos?
So honestly, I love old school country and new. Like I'm not very like my dad listens to like Alan Jackson or like Toby Keith and like all those old guys like Johnny Cash, but also too I love the newer ones. Like I love Morgan Wallen, I love Luke Combs, like all of those singers. And then you have like the Jason Aldean, the Randy Houser, all of those. So like I like all of the country, to be honest.
Okay, nice diverse catalog, very good. As you mentioned, this is a very young roster. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores. As a senior, this being your last year, what kind of legacy do you feel like you're leaving for this program in your final year to try and help this young roster develop and continue to grow and get Utah softball kind of back where you would expect it to be?
Yeah, I think the mark I want to leave is just like understanding that I can make an impact in like people's lives. Obviously, like having great stats, hitting the ball, being a good player, like all those things are awesome. But like I think for me, like no one's gonna call me 10 years down the line and be like, oh, Kaylah Nelsen, she hit this. Like they're gonna call me back and be like, I appreciate the type of person you were, like the type of culture that you left, like just who you are as a person. And like that honestly means way more to me than any stat, than any hit or anything. So I feel like for me, like I just want to be able to impact like people's lives. Like my dad always told me like growing up that I might be like the closest thing to a Bible that anybody's seen. Like being able to like, be like a light for people and like represent God's glory is like the biggest part for me. So I just feel like the culture I want to leave here is just understanding like I just want to be a good person. I want other people to feel like they're going to make difference in other people's lives and new people that come into the program. But also as well as like, I'm not a very talkative person. Sometimes on the field, I'm not very loud. I'm pretty monotone, pretty mellow, but that's okay too. Like you can always lead by example. And that's like a huge thing for me is I might not be super vocal, but I do try to take pride in my character and like the leader I am on the field and by the things I do. So
Okay. What again? We've talked about this turnaround. You've won 2 straight Big 12 series over Kansas and Utah. It's been, or sorry, Kansas and Houston. Sorry, red logos that are similar. What do you think has led to this kind of turnaround for you guys? What do you think it is that has helped your team kind of find ways to win these last 2 series in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think so. One of the biggest things, I'm not super big on the pitching side. They've turned theirs around, but from like the hitting defensive perspective, I feel like a lot of us were kind of playing very tight. Like we were kind of nervous to swing at that pitch. We're kind of like just playing very like just a little bit nervous. Like we didn't really go out there and was like destroy the ball, like we were being a little bit too picky. Like I just feel like we were a little bit on our heels, and at some point, like right after that Arizona tournament, we were like, guys, we literally like, there is nothing to absolutely lose. And that's what I love about being like an underdog, is that like everybody else that plays us has everything to lose except us. Like, let's just go out there and literally have fun. Like, take our hacks, like make the play that you're nervous to make. Like, just let loose and have, like, just be free. And I feel like that was the conversation we had. And I feel like all of us were like, you know what, you're right. Like playing on our heels isn't going to do anything for us. Like it's showing, obviously. So let's just go out there and do something different. If we fail, then at least we're failing towards a positive. Like that's okay. Like being able to fail, like Coach Court always tells us, but like failing is the answers to the test. Like being able to fail and learn from that is a good thing. And I think we finally were like understanding, okay, you know what, that is true, and like trying something different. And I feel like once we kind of like, just like I told you, let loose, turn the music on the locker room and just go up there and do our thing, it like actually helped so much. So I feel like that's like the big part of our turnaround.
And that's awesome. Look, I always say you can be told things, you can study things. Sometimes the best way to learn is through experience, right? As a child, you can be
Yeah,
told something's hot, but until you touch the stove, you're never quite understanding what hot actually is. And so, losing
absolutely.
isn't fun at all. But sometimes there can be more to learn from losing than there is from winning, and you take those lessons learned when things are hard and apply them moving forward, and that will show growth, right? And I think this team really is starting to show some growth from the beginning of the season to now. To see them in games where they have to fight their way back and or hold on
Yeah.
to leads, I think that's big progress for this team from where it was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Want to shout out your teammate Kennedy Proctor, who was named Big 12 Player of the Week this week. Tell me about Kennedy. What's it like playing with her? What is it about? What is her role to you in this team?
Yeah, no, she's awesome. I think like with Kennedy, I remember like talking to her in preseason, and like I was able to kind of see like her potential. I feel like she was pretty hidden. Not a lot of girls on her team were kind of like realizing what she has, but I noticed it like right off the bat. I'm like, this girl has so much potential. Like I was trying to like even pick her brain, because she's like not super like loud. Like she's outgoing, but she doesn't really talk a lot about like her softball knowledge. And I was like, just kind of like knock on your brain and like think about what you're like, just understand your thoughts and what you're thinking when you're going up to bat. And then she tells me all these things. I'm like, holy crap! Like she's got like a good IQ. Like she's understanding, and like I just feel like her maturity, like when she's in the box, is actually pretty high compared to like maybe even when I was a freshman. It was really impressive. But honestly, like I knew that she was going to be an impact for our team right off the bat, like in the preseason. And it's just super exciting to see her like go out and do her thing and like ball out. And I think that she's understanding and she knows what her role is now. I feel like then it was like she was trying to figure it out. We talked about it a little bit, and now she's like pursuing it, and I'm like so proud of her to see that. Like that's such a big thing for her to be able to like come on the field and make a huge impact year one. Like it is so hard to be a starter, as you probably know, freshman year, but she's doing it. And honestly, I'm so proud of her. Like her mindset in the box, just like her demeanor, like she's just like so focused and dialed in. And like the one thing I love about Kennedy is she like doesn't overthink a lot about her at bats or her defense, like whatever she's doing. Like she makes an error, she's like, okay. And then she comes up the next at bat and she's like, boom, crushed to center field. Like, and I think that that's so important, that a lot of people like struggle with, is like the mental side of the aspect and of the game. Like understanding that like this, as soon as you're thinking here, like it's hard to get the results that you want in the box, where she just kind of like lets it go. All right. And then she comes in and like does her thing. So honestly, it's been like so awesome to see her like thrive. And I mean, I'm just really, really proud of her.
Yeah, it's awesome. Look, the mental side of the game is so huge, and it's one of the hardest things. It's a hard thing to teach. I don't know how to teach it. It's a hard thing to learn. Again, experience more oftentimes than not than just having it explained to you. So
Mhm.
to see her come in with that as a freshman is really really big for this team. Uh,
Yeah.
this is your senior season. Last year playing softball, unless you decide to play some in the pro. Has that started to sink in for you a little bit as we get later and later into the season?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of weird. My parents are like, "Oh, we just booked our flights for your senior weekend," and everybody, my boyfriend's family and my aunts, and they're like, "We're booking the flight for your senior season. Do you have your cap and gowns? We take pictures." I'm like, "Holy crap! It's literally actually happening." It's like mixed feelings about it, you know. Like as much as I'm excited for like life in the next step, it's like also nerve wracking because I'm like, this is all I've done since I was a little girl. Like it's mixed feelings for sure, but yeah, it's definitely been the back of my mind.
Yeah, look, just maximize it. Like make the most of it. Uh, Sit and in and enjoy every moment as best you can.
Yeah.
Because soon you'll be working every day, and you'll be like, "Man, I wish I was back playing softball in college."
I'm like, no.
Um, you've spent your entire career until this year in the Pac-12. Your freshman year was at Oregon State, then you moved to or transferred to Utah. You've been here since. Now you're in the Big 12. Utah making the move over to the conference with Arizona and Arizona State. What's what's been that experience been like going through a conference transition as a player? We talk about it as programs and stuff, and we as fans get excited, or in the case of some Utah fans, not so excited. But as a player who's used to doing one thing and switching over to another, what's this transition been like for you this year?
Yeah, it's been a little, there's like definitely some really high highs. Like there's some great things about it. I think like one thing for me that I love is like getting to compete against different teams, seeing like different stadiums, like all that fun stuff. Obviously, I've already seen the UCLA's, the Washingtons. Like it's kind of cool to see like a different change, and also to be like one of the first people to ever play in a Pac-12 and in a Big 12 by like transitions, which is obviously kind of cool. I think another thing that like would be awesome is getting to win like the first Pac-12 tournament we've ever had, and then to be able to switch to the Big 12 and then be able to win that would be pretty cool. That'd be like the cherry on top. But yeah, like it definitely has some cool positives. Obviously, like it's a little weird. I always tell my dad, I'm like, why is UCLA playing Iowa? Like, where are they? Like, they should be here. Like,
In
it's a little
conference.
weird, like it's different for sure. Like, obviously, like I chose the Pac-12 because, in my opinion, it's the most competitive, conference in the country. And obviously, you have your SEC, but Pac-12 is really strong. And then two, it's in the West Coast. My family lives in California, so my dream is to play in front of them. So it was a little hard with all that stuff and the travel. Like we're going to Texas Tech next weekend. My dad's like, that's a little far. Like I don't know if we can make that. So it has its positives. It has some negatives, but honestly, at the end of the day, like I think our team and I are excited. Like I think it's a cool change, and it's just getting to play all these new teams. Like I won't get to play Baylor this year, but I think it'd be cool to play them and see their stadium. Hopefully, when I'm alumni, I get to go travel there. But also, too, getting to have a series against our rival BYU, like that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be super hectic and noisy and fun. So I feel like that's a cool change too, to be able to have like our rival and actually like beat them in a series. So it's been cool. Yeah, good
That,
experience.
that's that's a great mindset about it. Yeah, look, Utah and UCF being in the same conference, Iowa and UCLA being in the same conference. Some of these things are never going to
Crazy.
settle or make sense at all. Like that's never going to be like a thing you go, yeah, sure, that's just part of how things are now. Kayla, you've been absolutely awesome. We're going to wrap this up the same way we do with everybody with a few quick questions. So, number one, I'm going to guess the answer might be something country, but what is your walk up song this year?
So we have three. We have like a throwback. My first one is okay. Actually, I wanted to change it, but my little sister like wanted me to keep it, so I'm like, I guess. So it's like a Snoop Dogg song from the West Coast. So I'm like, okay, I'll keep that. And then my other one is the "Let's Groove Tonight," and then my third one is country, which is my favorite probably. It's called "Welcome to the Show." and it's a good show, or it's a good song. I honestly love it. I wish I almost would have like switched that to my first day, and I could hear it on my first day, because sometimes like we don't always get to the last, like since we just literally got like rained out the other weekend and we're still having snow, so sometimes I get to miss my favorite song. But yeah, if I could redo it, I'd probably do all country.
Okay. Okay. Peanut butter and jelly. What's your jelly of choice?
Oh my gosh, I actually hate jelly.
Oh
I know
no.
it sounds crazy, but I literally, like, growing up, my mom would only make me like peanut butter sandwiches because I never liked jelly. So peanut butter.
Okay. No, no peanut butter and honey, no peanut butter and fluff, peanut butter and banana, just straight peanut butter.
Just straight peanut butter. I mean,
All
sometimes I'll
right.
have bananas, but mainly just peanut butter.
Okay. All right. That's a new one. Uh, I got to ask this. You were on the In the Circle podcast with our good friend Eric Lopez before the season. Fantastic interview. But you mentioned something about a boyfriend who you've mentioned here, and maybe hopes for a ring at some point soon. You got any updates there that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so it's so funny. He actually watched the last podcast and was like, "Oh my gosh, you did not just put me on blast." It was so funny. And he's like, "Well, now I feel like I have to ask you like before the season ends, so when you get to see him, you could be like, I got it." But no, I told him like, don't rush it. Obviously, I feel pretty confident that it's gonna happen this year. Whether it's like summer to maybe December. Hopefully he hears that, and it's another push for him to hurry up. But yeah, like we still talking about it. We're still pretty on board. I like think like the biggest thing is like both of us understanding like what our goals are before the next move happens and everything. So that's kind of like what we're in conversation about, and things are lining up. Obviously it's God's timing, not ours. So but yeah, I mean, once I get it, I'll definitely have to shoot you guys both a DM or a text or something.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Oh, yeah, look, as you mentioned, conversation. Conversation is key in any successful relationship. So it's good to have that. And plus, if the boyfriend's parents are coming out to your senior weekend, like that's not for fourth date kind of
I'm
stuff. So
basically in at this point. It's just a matter of when.
all right. Well, if we need to help you with applying any pressure, happy to do so. I'll get you the link for this
Perfect.
when it's done. You just send it to him and be like, hey, you should just fast forward to the 22-minute mark and take a look.
I might have
Um,
to.
okay. Would you rather hit a walk-off home run to win a game or rob a walk-off home run at the wall?
Hit a walk-off home run. I
Okay.
see defense is cool and all, but hitting's definitely my game. Like that is my favorite. And I don't hit many home runs, so hitting a home run would just be like perfect.
Okay. Very good. All right. Last one. You mentioned you're not the most vocal on the field. Neither is Kennedy. Who is the biggest trash talker on your team?
We actually just had this as a question this last weekend for our fans to guess. And it's my roommate next door, Siani Sakai. She is freaking hilarious, but it has to be her, hands down.
Okay. All right. So if we were to hand out a 10-12 Big 12 Trash Talker of the Year award, do you think she'd be a viable candidate for that?
100%.
Okay. Okay.
100%.
Our trash talk aficionado, Leah Nelson, who's an Iowa State alum, uh, we'll get her. We'll figure out how to make this happen. Kayla, you have
All
been
right.
awesome. This has been a great interview. Thank you so much for your time. Congrats again on the last 2 weekends. Good luck to the rest of the season and your senior year. And anything we can do to help you with the boyfriend, just let us know.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun. And as always, go Utes.